Anyone have arcadum on your big content creators using the platform to abuse others bingo card? No one?
What?
Arcadum, creator of many high-profile tabletop RPG campaigns and content such as Shattered Crowns, Broken Bonds, Steel and Silence, and The Living World of Aram and Callous Row, has recently come under fire from over 13 women. They've come forth with glaring tell-alls and personal accounts about their interactions with Arcadum. Some are about work interactions, some are about manipulative friendships, and too many are about sexual manipulation. Before moving forward, this is a content warning. If you find accounts of sexual harassment, abuse, stalking, manipulation, and transphobia greatly upsetting, please take care of yourself before watching this. Thank you. Also, remember, please don't go and harass the guy. This is not brigading. Don't stoop to his level. Be better. A series of women have come forward with their own accounts of their interactions with Arcadum. All this is harrowing, as Arcadum was how many people got introduced to Dungeons & Dragons. If Critical Role was aimed at newbies and aspirants, Arcadum's games were about how many people that had no idea about it were introduced. He's had major personalities from all sorts of corners of the internet, from Felicia Day, VTubers such as Ironmass and Haruka, and massive creators like Lily Peach and Disguised Toast, all on his streams. He has streamed to thousands and thousands of people. Aside from Critical Role, he's the most subbed D&D streamer, amassing more than 15,000 subscribers. To say he's got the influence and power is a major understatement. One account from Uzu stated that Arcadum asked her for a lap dance, and they were just, it was not even in like a dancing or like major area where you're supposed to dance. They were watching a movie, there were other people there, and they were just, hey baby, come dance for me. And they had their friends nearby them. That's weird, right? Am I crazy in thinking that was weird? After this one, he ended up getting into a call with her and asking for ERP, erotic roleplay, via VR chat. This will not be the first case, and it will not be the last case. But later on, Uzu then later on says that she ended up leaving the call feeling confused and guilty, thinking that she ended up hurting his feelings because it didn't really go out the way he wanted, and not wanting to be sexual with him. After he would DM me asking if I made him uncomfortable or pressured me, and despite everything inside, deep down going yes, I told him no. She told him that, but she didn't. She was honestly scared for making things awkward or getting kicked out of the RP or not being my friend anymore. Remy the Siren also had a very interesting case here. There was one time in VR where Arcadum came in to talk pretty much about his money while they're all hanging out, and how he sends huge amounts of monies in real time to some of his friends while they're all together. Can you imagine the sort of situation where you are hanging out with your friends and one friend tells you, oh yeah, I just like sending money to my friends whenever I'd want to, throwing like, oh, here's $1,000. It's not the only case here, because here, she was extremely uncomfortable, but things added up, feeling pressured like he was holding money and a spot in a D&D game over my head, wanting to be generally there for someone I thought cared about being my friend, not knowing how to say no in the moment of how overly awkward it was. Agreed to let him do it. It was extremely painful for me and beyond awkward because of the combination of the situation and my sexuality. I really had no idea what to do, and yet he pushed even further. He was asking me to help him out, which I told him wasn't really comfortable with, but after some pressuring, I agreed to meet in the middle and screen share an NSFW picture of myself in the voice call. After talking about money, he goes into a call, he goes into VR chat, tells everyone how much money he has, how he gives it to everybody, and then he asks you for sex. In one account from JADS, on her second conversation with Arcadum, he randomly decided to approach her, saying, JDs, I need to know something. Sure, what's up? I just dropped my merch line today and I made 300k. I'm blowing up. I need to know if you're going to be treating me any differently now because of this. Remember, this was their second conversation ever. Just approach a person and say, hey, I've got 300k. And later on, after this ended up leading to an ERP sort of relationship because he was feeling really bad, and he ended up convincing her to like, hey, look, maybe we should try ERPing and doing all kinds of like things like going into VR chat in full body at 11 p.m. That's not sus at all. At one point during the nights he did things, he'd make comments like, you know that as a dungeon master, I pull the strings in the game. The same rules apply to Twitch, JDs. I work the same way. He told me how he'd pay for rent and potentially even help with surgeries. This man believes his dick to be worth 300k. His dick is 300k gold. And as a dungeon master, he can pull strings. JD's was not the only one that Arcadum had this weird sex and money relationship with. Ridiculous Streams, or the Empress Red, was very transparent in saying that he is financially supported her for paying for a whole new computer to participate in Callous Row with, to pay for an avatar to which to roleplay with. Now, to run VR, to even have a VR, like, I don't even know if it was a VR necessarily compatible computer, but to have a computer capable of running VR or to have an avatar is thousands of dollars minimum. This is not the only part of the story, however, because if you look up sex right here, it was almost immediate that he made advances in a sexual way towards me, saying that two consenting adults can help relieve each other's stress. He says relieve and stress, pent up, and sex way too many times. A lot of the rest of this is in DMs, and I can't really go into it, but later on with Empress Red, at some point she had eyes for another, attempted to initiate something with them. It did not turn out between us, unfortunately, and while at first Arcane was supportive, it turned back on me, saying he was ready to drop everything for me. He chose the other person and destroyed them, and it went all over my head. I don't wish to go any further than I have. As someone who have defended and support, yeah, no. Oof. Rough. Devin Nash, someone that's been closely associated with Arcadum as an agency, ended up cutting off all business and advising their partners to do the same. They will lose approximately about 20,000 merchandise inventory and multiple business deals, but this is a very proper response because they initially suggested that they were going to do a third-party investigation. However, because of all the reports, that investigation is no longer required. It's really damning evidence, and you know, who's gonna waste the money, right? So Momo's was actually one of the first cases I ended up reading because of the VTuber sphere, and it didn't seem as bad as it later on gets. Like, it's already pretty bad with the emotional manipulation and the grooming and the isolation, but I didn't realize when I started here how much worse it would get. So Momo here was close friends with Arcadum, and Arcadum would regularly question who is she hanging out with, why don't they hang out more, are we still best friends, and kind of making her question about the kind of friends that she has. Things like, you know, what, like, does she deserve the friends that she has? And there was one point after all of this that he ends up questioning, he causes her to question whether or not she should continue to hang out with this group of friends because I made him feel like this. That was her fault. He felt like his friends didn't want to include him. That was her fault that her new friends enjoyed being around her and not around him. Confused, and only continued to get worse to the point where I stopped talking or really hanging out with that friend group altogether. This is textbook grooming, i.e., it's gaslighting, in which it makes you question your friendships in reality, but also it's grooming in that it's trying to limit the amount of people you have to support you. Arcadum had a massive group of people to support him, and you can tell with all of these accounts, he talked to everyone almost in a row. I need help, I need help, I need help, I need help here. He had a massive circle, and yet all he kept doing was trying to make sure all of the people involved in the circle was only attached to him. He wanted to cut off any case of this web here. This man tried to control people's friendships. It also happened a bit with Somersault as well. With Somersault, he ended up he was around when Somersault was figuring out VR chat, and he had one case here. After hanging out with them for a bit, I would occasionally get DMs from Arcadum asking me if I was romantically interested in either of her friends. This felt very off-putting because that was, first of all, a very personal question from out of the blue. Secondly, it was none of his business. But I was not romantically interested in either of them. I just wanted to be friends. I told Arcadum such, and he would go on to ask me the same question a few more times as I continued to hang out with his people. They were just friends. As I continued to hang out with those people, Arcadum often approached, asking why they don't hang out as often, a phrase they would get very familiar with, and he would still do this without putting any effort to hang out himself. It's not great. At some point, Arcadum has gone onto an unofficial artist Discord, invited a TV star friend onto the server, then talked about a TV show he wants to make by creating a channel called Kalos Row Concepts, NDA don't talk about. You realize NDAs are things you sign, right? Not only was this unprofessionally done in a fan Discord, one that Arcadum does not only control, but simply has mod privileges in, it wasn't his own server. It was a place where an artist would hang out. He dragged on an actual celebrity into the server, and they made a channel, assuming that was enough, all without asking the owners of the fan server if it was okay. Another artist Arcadum worked with, Spats, came forward with more information concerning Sketchu and Cure. Essentially, asking when was the last time they've been paid, because Arcadum kept delaying payments really late to his artists, and so he started yelling, "How dare you accuse me of not paying my artists? Do you know how much money I spend?" And they were shocked that he was lying to their face, and that they had seen all the unpaid invoices and paperwork of all the work. So here's the thing. He kept making excuses of waiting till Twitch paid him, but this is for Kalos Row, a very recent project, and from what I'm aware of, he was kind of talking about his 300k GP dick to JADS back in mid-2020? So it's not like the man somehow blew 300k in a single year. It's not like he wasn't still making money in that last year. So he had the money to throw around. He used it in order to, well, he had the money to throw around, and he couldn't even pay his artists, but he'll most likely like help to pay, you know, rent and other things from the girls he was trying to get sexual favors from. There was even a case where a character that appeared in his game, Wheel and Woe, named Betty, had less than stellar representation. Arcadum later reframed it, saying Betty was a person performing in drag, but damage was done, indicating that the suggestion that trans women are men that tricks us men with their feminine names and clothes, and that's really awful. Did anyone have transphobic in the Arcadum punch card? The bingo card? Anyone know? When I went through all the Twitlongers, and I've read all of them, I actually started to find myself numb. Oh, it's just another case of pushing for sex. Oh, he used this line this time? Interesting. Geez, how many times he's gonna say he's pent up or frustrated? Spoiler alert. This many times. This many times. Anyways, I started becoming numb to each new case, and less surprised with each and every one. This is not the proper response. To think, yeah, chalk that one up to the pile. But there was just so many accounts, so many plays, so many moves, so many accounts of abuse, so many attempts. Evil wins when you sit by, jaded at all it's done. This is... The kind of behaviors he shows these women is not a pattern of love or friendship, perhaps obsession. But honestly, more than anything, it's a pattern of control. This is limiting who people were with, who they got along with, who they were romantically interested or involved with. This is even going so far to talk to friends of friends, expecting gotchas and betrayal. One of the more harrowing experiences of this whole situation is one with Kelly Siren, a player that frequented a large amount of his games, and in which he frequented the DMs of quite a bit. Through her story, which I'll be covering a little bit more comprehensively, you'll see just how far he really went. Green is highlight for things I think are really gross. At some point, while hanging out on VR chat, he'd say things like, "I'm really sad. Is it alright if I hug you?" and other similar comments, which led to flirting and then more, him commenting on my character's boobs and stuff and could he touch them. It most definitely led to him asking her if it would make him feel better in a sexual way. One day, she ended up messaging off the bat, didn't want anything sexual. However, he then later on went to a friend to complain and be upset that she would ever think that. Asking for intimate comfort. It started getting to the point where he'd randomly ask her to help him feel better or help him find sexual release. It came in two forms. Whether or not he had a bad day and was requesting to make him feel better, or had a good day and he was really feeling himself. So, you know, good or bad, he wanted to get his dick wet. More gross, I got really tired of the random requests to do sexual stuff. It was exhausting, always having to explain why she didn't want to do it. You do not owe anyone an explanation of why you don't want to participate in sexual behaviors. I'm so sorry you had to go through all that one. This is a really sus part I really want to focus on in a little bit, but I'll come back to this. He started asking why when I said I didn't feel like doing sexual acts with him. He'd constantly ask if he excites her. He started catching feelings for her at some point and ended up asking her out and told her his feelings in a call. He said that he loved her, that she found that she ended up finding out that he had so many other girls he loved at the same time, and that it was really stressful, and she had told him she didn't want a relationship before. Turns out he had asked other girls, even within the next days, to be romantically involved with him. Naomi was asked right after he asked her out. He responds with, "All I've ever tried to do is help you."
Todd, I'm sorry, all right? I screwed up. I know I screwed up. I don't know why.
Oh, great. Of course. Here it comes. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep doing shitty things and then feel bad about yourself like that makes it okay. You need to be better.
He wanted her to tell him who he was intimate with, and didn't want to. He demanded from my friend that she show him proof that she was speaking with someone. Couldn't believe that he would put that pressure on her after disrespecting her and her privacy so badly. Literally goes out of his way to go confirm with her friend, you know, expecting her friend to betray her. Ugh. He started going behind her back and confronting any guys he thought she had feelings for or talking to. He would approach the guys, tell them that he had feelings for her, and ask their intentions with me. It caused them to really it was really rough and caused a lot of people to distance away from her, and they end up losing a lot of friends. He would check the VR chat list, assuming which people she was playing with and saying, "Have fun with so-and-so." He said it was their fault for being weak when being confronted about it, and not talking anymore. He would constantly ask her if he was her closest friend, and he did this because she wouldn't tell him who she was seeing. He then told her that she had new favorites. He got mad at me for liking the tweets and not his. It was so much obsession over for her in her life. There's cases in which he goes on to suggest, "Hey, I can prove it. I will go at it." To suggesting that he would spend hours scouring her tweets, finding out all the people that he would then find out how many times she'd interact with people, or the people that she would contact with, meet, you know what I mean, interact with at all. Hours. It had to be hours. It's insane. She remembered distinctly saying, "Call, you don't trust me? There goes my support." Arcadum was known to financially support a lot of people. It suggested that this was more so akin to hush money, and that gets emphasized in this next point. He did pay her a severance package after he kicked her out of everything. Now here's the thing. Arcadum is known not only to not pay his artists, but also to financially support his various friends with PCs, rent, surgeries. He made over 300K and he made a gold cast stick of it. I'm kidding about that part, but anyways. He had no problem giving her a severance package, even though he had consistently has problems paying anybody else. This kind of emphasizes the whole hush money element. And lastly, well, of this little section, Arcadum edited their messages. There's actually more than, I think, 3 or 4 cases so far circulating of Arcadum having edited previous messages, because a message like a year ago, it has been edited in the last 5 days, and that's kind of sus. Now, this is not why, like, all of this is terrible, but there's one thing that really stood out to me, and it was right here. He would often make advances towards her while he was streaming. Now, you really have to think. I imagine it has to be hard to groom even one person. But he also abused his various mods and other people he was associated with. His art director, various mods, all these women. And I had to think, how could he possibly do all that if he's so busy all the time with his D&D and the world and getting off and all those things? Where would he find time? Streaming. I believe both Kelly and Momo had notes in their DMs about how he would message them during stream. While Arcadum was streaming, while he was running for thousands of people, while people were role-playing and he should have been paying attention and all those elements, he would be grooming and harassing women. At any given point of watching him, he could have been fully erect. And that is harrowing. To groom not 1, but 10 women. Possibly more because of the whole iceberg effect, that there's more that we have not seen that have surfaced. He did this during those streams. That content that many people have grown to love. Former fan, friend, and worker for Arcadum actually also released their statement. One notable part is where how Arcadum has this weird preference for including his female friends in many of his projects and promoting the streams. Female voices are often overshadowed in the D&D community, and they figured that he was using his platform to encourage these voices, and that they never saw behind the curtain. Unsurprisingly, the thing behind his curtain was his penis. To add to this one, Ashley Lang, a close friend of Arcadum's from like a long time ago, ended up contacting with him on the 30th after he got thrown out of the house by Tiff, and he ended up describing the situation as he had been dating multiple women, but we all know that's bull, because he wasn't dating any of them. He was courting and or grooming and or manipulating multiple of them and thinking that they were in some kind of like weird romance anything, but it didn't work out at all. So Ashley Lang continued on saying that they weirdly presumed that they must have been some sort of quiet, out of the spotlight members in the edges of the community, perhaps because the alternative in their mind, the public-facing woman that anyone and everyone knew of, was really, really stupid. Really, really dumb. It was so dumb it was visible from space. The world-ending brand kind of dumb that they didn't think that he had the ego that he could get away with. Yeah, he did. Another major story that ended up popping up was from Crystal Zenaida. They have worked with Arcadum for 3 years, and their story is so thick, I don't actually believe I can fully cover it earnestly and clearly in just a few minutes. I would highly recommend you read it to understand how Arcadum deals with moderation and discipline, how he handles his business practices, how he handles personal relationships, how he handles paying artists not on time. It'll be in the link down below, as all of them will. Read this one. This one's a doozy. One story I think you should read, but I don't think actually can share on YouTube because it heavily deals in sexual assault and other things, is Volkona's story. I urge you to read this. It's really important. Yeah. One of the most telling cases is with Naomi Oop. Naomi Oop seems to have been involved in all of Arcadum's bull. From him venting about domestic issues, from him talking very extensively about how he needs to relieve pressure, how he needs release, and and we all already know what the release stands for, right? Relieving stress. But not only this, she was also involved in VR chat when he requested her for going over pleasantries and talking about how, once again, how pent up and repressed he was feeling, how he's lonely, asking if she was lonely, and moving closer whenever this happened. Duh. She has been in almost every scenario here, as well as with Kelly Siren, who they ended up talking about it, but also she was also then confessed to, so she's also been confessed to. They ended up talking a lot about between how he and her interact. There is a massive document here about the living world, and they have a very, very long conversation. The recordings are too much to go through, and honestly, I suggest just listening to them on your own, or other streamers are covering them as well. Naomi on stream covered it, Destiny covered it, so you should go check those out as well. At some point he talks about her ass, because, you know, put something else on the awful person bingo. Also, she was involved when he just came over and just trashed Volkona. Remember the person that he ended up sexually assaulting, and just bashing her. Not only to Naomi, but like a bunch of other people. Naomi here has seen all of Arcadum has had to offer, and has handled this in a very mature, very emotionally secure way. And you know what, Naomi? Good on you. I'm so sorry for what you had to go through. Jesus. Arcadum is a lot of things. He has committed a lot of terrible things. Allegedly. I have to say allegedly. But if there's anything I can say as a game master myself, it's ego. To have believed he was above it all, to have believed he couldn't be the one that was wrong, that what he's doing wasn't wrong, that the things that he was saying to his mods and how he was treating other people wasn't wrong. To have that level of ego is almost inhuman. A GM does end up developing ego and anxiety in equal amounts as you develop your skills. To be able to control the world, yet also be subject to the whims of your players, is a difficult balance, and the important thing is the balance. Arcadum is a case in which the balance got tipped and the ego went further than anyone else deserved. If you read through the experiences, you'll find someone who heavily emphasized how pitiful his life was, how quote unquote Tiffany was always abusing him, even though we now know that's not the case. How cold she was, how he was always so pent up and frustrated. He used pity as a weapon and still believed he was above everybody else in order to control them. There's one scene in Rick and Morty that really calls out to me, and I really want to highlight it here.
She had options. Oof. That all ended because she felt sorry for you. You act like prey, but you're a predator. You use pity to lure in your victims. It's how you survive.
He's going to apologize, say he didn't know what he was doing. But listen, Ignorance isn't a valid excuse for doing bad things. Do you think a man is able to throw out a heartfelt, completely considered apology after only 24 hours? No. This is someone in flight or fight. This is someone against the wall and trying to salvage his clout, his empire, his 300k GP dick.
No, Bojack, just stop. You are all the things that are wrong with you.
I'm not going to say don't believe him. I'm not going to outright say all of this is 100% what happened. I'm not going to say it's true. I'm also not going to say it's false. I'm not going to undercut the experience these women went through. But there are so many accounts, and at some point, enough accusations should be considered to some level of truth. Should it not be? But really step back and decide for yourself if he's really considered this. Do a lot more research, and please read everyone's accounts. I've been Dice Queen D. I like tabletop RPGs, but not like this. Y'all have a great day.